Scores KT can once again make it to a final, much like the final time we saw Score play in the LCK in 2018, one of the greatest LCK finals we ever had. It could be repeating itself once again as we get into the draft. Already the Pantheon taken away as well as the Azir, and we'll see whether there are any surprises for us.
Well, there's even the fact that Score was the one that led Gen.G to a big surprise upset.
Very
in
true.
2023 spring, when Delight and Paze had come in, the expectations for Gen.G were a lot lower than the year before. So much intertwined there, and we haven't even talked about the fact that BDD obviously was on Gen.G. So thus far, I think the only maybe slightly surprising thing to me is the fact that the Pantheon has been taken away, given both the fact that Pantheon has dropped in prior this playoffs, plus Kenyon's lost performance on it, as the Rise also taken away. So that
any Jarvan first pickers?
So there's Jarvan and Talia that I'm looking
Nara
towards.
also available.
Oh my goodness.
Being left open.
There it is.
First picked. So obviously Doctor, a big pick for him, but also denying away from Rulers. That'll be locked out for the series. And something we did talk heavily about was this pick up off the Orianna, especially with the Azir gone being a really high priority, really valuable pick. Orianna, Jarvan, a really strong combo. Jarvan, not the best jungler specifically into Yunara because you can dash outside the Cataclysm, but when you have the Jarvan Orianna combo, it's really hard to find picks that are stable and safe into that just because of that combo together. And it looks like Cuz going for the Poppy, obviously something that does match up decently well into the Jarvan in terms of that being able to block the dash.
And we were really blitzing through these first drafts, so I think speaks testament to the preparation of both teams. No really big surprises coming through here as BDD going back to his Annie. There's, of course, some flex potential with his Poppy. I do think most likely that it's just going to go towards Cuz. Could, depending on whether Gen.G locks in their bot lane or support matchup here, also go towards that. But I think it's going to be a top laner for Keen. The Aurora is still open. The Gwen is still open. The Ambessa is still open. Even Rumble with the Jarvan, we've seen a good amount, but it is instead going to be the Corki for a ruler, and he's been nigh unstoppable on this pick.
He's been very strong, but I was kind of expecting that Smolder tech to come back in once again. Instead, priority picking a lot more early game threat and wanting to play around teamfights, I assume, in the mid game rather than let this Yunara get towards a late game where she can really get out of control.
I think also when you're playing into an Annie, just having that safety measure of the Corki, being able to play from a distance, because obviously the Smolder you do have to get into Q range, as the Corki, you can't kind of sit at a distance and play around the rockets if you're not able to approach.
I'm expecting Gen.G to maybe sack Keen's matchup by picking up the Scion here on 4 and then giving counter pick to Duro, because I think if you do go to the Corki, you do have to really play as aggressively as possible for lane. And the Nico has already been taken away, right? That's kind of one of the go-tos when you do see aggressive Corki lanes. So wouldn't be surprised to see that come through. With this Lulu ban though, maybe they just pick for Duro here on 4 and give Keen the counter pick so that he can have a good top-side matchup.
I assume that KT banned Rumble just with the Ornn ban. I assume they were kind of like trying to set a trap, trying to bait out the Rumble ban. It doesn't actually come through. I mean, Rumble Jarvan is pretty strong, so we could just end up seeing that come through from Gen.G. With the fact that the Ornn's gone, which you've seen picked so commonly into the Rumble. Also note that Aurora is actually available as well, which is a pick that, I mean, Keen has just been so good on that in the top lane.
Maybe just pick away
the
Aurora instead, but they are just going to at least hover the Rumble for now. I wonder whether that's the decision-making process for KT. They're like, well, we could pick the Aurora if this Rumble is going to come in, so therefore we can actually ban away this Alistar, take away the team fighting potential from Duro, the engage potential there as well. But this is still devastating. I mean, they have 2 equalizers in this composition.
The only thing I am worried about, and I think that Gen.G is also taking this into account, is that while Aurora is a really good matchup in the Rumble, Aurora is a tough champion to play, right? To really get full value, when you're good at it, I think it feels nigh unstoppable. But if you aren't able to both push the laning phase really hard against the Gnar and or against the Rumble, I do think you kind of struggle. Ambessa to me makes a lot more sense. I think Perfect has shown that he is good on the champion, and the matchup isn't great, but Ambessa is able to just kind of out-sustain once you get deeper in.
Yeah, just make me wonder what Gen.G are going to take here in the support role. Just going to go for the Rel. And I feel like Duro's had some great performances on this. Obviously, just playing around the map, having a lot of impact, setting up ganks for the team. There's so much engage and team fighting potential for Gen.G. I feel like they're just so comfortable because I think KT, you know, if Perfect has a fantastic game on the Ambassador, that's great, but so much of that comp is relying on Dr. on this Yunara popping off. And I look at the other side, and Gen.G has so many tools to stop that from ever being a problem when it comes to Yunara, because there's a lot of CC. Often we see the Yunara have a lot of value when things like the Wukong are taken out of the equation, but Orianna, Rumble, Rel, Jarvan, it's a hard game to play as a Yunara, and you don't have the extra support of like a Lulu or something backing you up.
I'm also a little worried about the lane matchups here with the Corki for Ruler, with Chovy on the Orianna. I know we've seen the Annie picked into it. When there's jungle intervention, I think you can get a lot of mileage out of the matchup. But in the pure 1v1 in lane, I don't think it's that great. And then obviously Mbessa is expected to lose early as well. And having a lot of losing lanes against Gen.G is always going to be a really tough line to walk because they're so good at pushing their lead.
Yeah, I just think that Gen.G's composition a whole lot easier to play. KT, though, there are tools. It will just take finesse to make it work, right? If you create a skewed team fight with that Poppy ultimate that we have to always talk about because of how incredibly game warping it can be, that can buy that space to get the Yunara rolling, make things happen here so that Doctam can be that absolute raid boss towards the end of this game. A lot of big picks coming into this game number one. It's often what we see, and we'll see who's going to be able to draw first blood in this series. And of course, in the game as well, as we get ready to jump onto the Rift for game number one of our lower bracket final.
KT, 하나, 둘, 셋. Gen.G, 하나, 둘, 셋.
Oh my goodness, Gen.G fans out in force here in the Inspire Arena. As here we are, onto the Rift for game number one. KT, our higher seed. And so they chose the blue side here for game number one. I'm going to keep saying it.
We have to.
Because it still blows my mind, and I imagine a lot of people would be like, well, this is all of the LCK first team players. Surely they're the highest seed in this matchup. No.
A lot of people will come in and be like, oh, Gen.G chose red side game one.
Yeah, weird.
Interesting.
Weird. Normally they choose red later in the series.
Yeah.
No, it's just KT having side selection. And based on these drafts, I mean, if you're a KT fan, I imagine you're incredibly anxious regardless, but I don't think I'd be more anxious or less anxious based on the draft. You know, I'm feeling like there are options if they can make things happen.
The KT fan expert, but I think you could just ended that sentence that you're never more or less anxious.
Yeah, that's a good
KT
point.
fan, right? What I do want to highlight is that one of the big things for me is that Cuz is on a champion that can have a lot of early impact. The biggest gap between these two players has been specifically how much they get done early, how much they can impact their lanes, and that to me is the one kind of X factor that I think can shore up a lot of the possible weaknesses for the KT draft in lane, is that you do have a Poppy that if you trade too aggressive here as Duro and Ruler, for example, Cuz is pathing towards bot.
Well, Duro does go for a crash down here as Ruler's also taking a fair bit of damage. Barrier used, and the heal is going to come out in exchange. Meanwhile, Chovy and BDD doing battle against one another as Chovy taking a fair bit of damage here. BDD pushing pretty far up though, so like you say, minions being angry.
Yeah, ends up being a pretty even trade after the fact. Chovy getting the level 2 and turning it around, using the minions well. But both mid laners battling it out pretty heavily.
Want to highlight it as well, by the way, that Chovy went second win and unflinching. So he went resolve second just to try and manage the any matchup just a little bit better. As we did see the trade, as mentioned, in bot lane of Sums. Does mean Chovy, I think normally you don't have to base here, but against the Poppy Annie, you don't really have a choice. I say that, he decides he does.
Red dot.
Cuz isn't here, but if he would have been, could have been risky as Canyon this time. But maybe looking for early impact because the bot lane prior was there. Not going to be the cases. I love Jarvan, man. Sometimes the champion just comes back in the meta, and he's just good.
And it also just does exactly what Jarvan has done for the last 12 years.
Isn't that
and that is gank you level 3. As a hook and a connect here towards the bottom side of the map. Slurkle goes wide. Oh, feels great to have a Yunara game to start us off here in the Inspire Arena.
Yes, yes it does.
I just feel like it just sounds, Slurkle sounds better in a roadshow. You know, don't you think so? What do you think, Dan?
I think it sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
I hope to hear you say it many more times this game.
Well, don't you worry. It's a guarantee. It's all right. Cuz going to be taking some shellfish here in the river towards the bottom side. And Perfect holding his own decently well towards the top side of the map as well. Canyon moving his way up there. We'll be able to grab a crab. We'll see whether he does decide to opt into any sort of early gank. Has hit level 4 before doing too much of that. So not really the Jarvan we expect, but Canyon's always been someone that's very happy to go back to Jarvan. You know, across his career has always been one of the ones to pull it out when it's been off meta, but he's only played it once this playoffs. It's actually kind of interesting because we've seen the priority on this champion skyrocket, but not necessarily for Gen.G until here today.
Yeah, we've seen Canyon go towards, you know, some other picks, things like the Kiana, which we haven't necessarily agreed with and have struggled a good amount. Oh, he's UC Duro trying to stop the recall but fails. So reset comes in from Dr. They are just going back to bot lane, not going for a swap, and he has picked up the call. We haven't seen too much come out from the early game, but that early pressure from BDD, I feel like if Cuz and BDD get ahead in that mid-jungle matchup, and particularly Poppy, the impact you can have on side lanes when, you know, someone's under a tower and you slam them in the wall can be really just the way you take over the game, so...
Oh, Peter in a little bit of trouble as he was trying to wave. But Dr. gets back here and the wave does crash.
I do think we're also seeing that Gen.G is very clearly trying their best to keep an eye on Cuz very closely, like the fact that Keen is going for the deep invade so that they keep track of his jungle pathing. And Canyon has actually been on the same side the whole time, and that was again the biggest difference in the last series these two teams faced, was that Canyon had basically no early impact, whereas Cuz was winning multiple lanes. As Chovy,
the flash in from BDD is in comes Cuz, throws the buckler at the back of his head, and down goes Chovy for first blood.
Just easy as that, you know, set up the stun with the Annie. Flashes come through, and again, in the last time these teams played, it was about that mid-jungle. That is where the advantage was gained for KT.
So can I simultaneously claim that curses aren't real, but I can't believe it cost her blessings? Is that okay?
No.
Can I get away with that? No. Okay, well then I can't take credit for this one. As
you can in your own mind.
Really nicely done there by Cuz. Again, finding the early impact there on the Poppy, and that means that Chovy going to be put behind here early on, and with the prio that KT actually have been able to find in all of their lanes, they're looking really good early here.
Yeah. Dragon was considered for a few moments, but no one is going to be sticking around. Both teams with vision of the area. As Perfect now going to get pushed away as the lane swap has come on through.
That's should be able to catch the wave if he doesn't go too low, but they might be looking for a play towards topside to try and punish him.
Yeah, it could be a bit of an angle. There is vision if Canyon does try to get in.
And he's TPing top, so he's ready to help cover. So
good cover.
We'll be safe here. I don't think you dive a Nautilus and an Ambessa seems pretty risky.
Yep, level 6 here for Perfect as well, and we know how good he is getting away from stuff, as Dr. doesn't have to use any summoners here, but Keen is scary.
This is one of the things. Peter can't be in both lanes at once, you know, goes to protect his top laner, and immediately Keen just toasts his AD carry. But Dr. able to stay safe, at least, for the time being.
Well, Perfect actually dodging out of the way of a lot of that harassment underneath the turret, so does get a bunch of gold, but a plate goes over to Keen, and it looks like Gen.G winning out as far as how this lane swap has eventuated, have closed that gold gap almost completely after that first blood. So KT thinking they're lucky stars that they're able to make that one work.
And one of the things with that first blood is that Chovy didn't end up hitting his flash, so it's not like there's any openings for a potential follow-up play, especially the fact that now BDD and Cuz don't have their summoners to set it up. You know, Flash Tibbers, such a big threat, but Chovy having a summon advantage is going to be pretty safe on that for the time being.
Might also be one of the reasons why we've seen KT be a little bit apprehensive about like hard committing to a dragon. Once the level 6s, as they are now available, I do think the Gen.G comp is gets a little spooky to play into. As long as Canyon and Doro are on the same page, the amount of hard engage that's there is not only really strong, but it's multi-man. I think that KT's pick potential is obviously amazing, but it can be harder to get these really big wombo combos the way that Gen.G can, especially with Keen having a decent lead already.
Well, you can see KT moving over towards these grubs as they spawn. Canyon and Duro in the area. Level 6 for Duro as well. As the hook comes on through, they're engaging onto the Rel. I don't know whether it's the best choice, as Cuz is just going to evict Chovy from the fight. Now Canyon's in trouble, as Dr. doesn't have a Slurkle anymore, but in goes Duro, and he will fall down. But the trade is there immediately. In the meantime, Perfect is there towards the bottom side of the map, and the 1-for-1 isn't too bad if Peter does stay alive, and that will indeed be the case. Still, the grubs go over to Gen.G, and they'll claim their prize.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting decision from KT, because they got the one grub initially. They end up trading 1-for-1 and giving those plates over to Perfect. So as much as it looked a little bit haphazard, I think they're happy with how things actually ended up playing out. They got the TP there from Keen, and they managed to disengage, kind of a clean break that gave Perfect some extra gold.
Yeah, double plates is actually a pretty big deal here for this Ambessa.
Yeah, we can now see that Perfect is actually ahead in gold. And there's also the fact I understand why Gen.G want to take the fight, because they have a level advantage on Duro, but they look a bit disjointed, because playing this aggressive when Ruler is still pushing out the top wave, I don't think you really should be allowed to get away with, and as it turns out they don't. If they have the Corki there, I think that fight is a complete blowout.
Yeah,
it would have been really easy to but they just lack the damage.
Yeah, the fact that also Keen TP's in, you know, they're going to have this top laner, the Rumble with the Equalizer so strong at that point. This was a risky fight for KT to take, and the way that it played out, I think they were very happy with the outcome, considering how bad it could have been if Ruler was there sooner, if Keen was able to have that more immediate impact. Because the fact was, Perfect had TP'd bot, he wasn't going to be there at all. So KT kind of getting away with murder on that one, and now Gen.G starting up the Dragon here, and it looks like KT not really in position to contest.
Yeah, we do have Cuz moving over, as they do clear out the vision in the back of the pit here, but Gen.G 4-man strong will be able to take this one by the looks of things. We'll see whether Cuz can find a bit of an angle, but Trophy not going to get slammed against a wall, and it is just going to be the first two objectives going over to Gen.G without too much of an issue here, as now Gen.G finding an angle towards Peter on the bottom side of the map. Magnustorm comes in, flash out from Peter, but he still gets pulled back in. Still, they do get the flash, and that is a big deal.
That was the Equalizer was like literally like a 2-second cooldown as that play went on. If they had that, I think they can definitely play for the kill. Instead, just going to be the shove-in, but not much more there for Gen.G.
Yeah, did you get the flash from Peter, though? So we'll take that one, absolutely. And potentially look for a play onto him in the future. I feel like playing Nautilus into Jarvan in particular is such an uncomfortable matchup, because there's so many situations where you're playing around the dredge line as like a safety tool, and the Cataclysm just completely shuts that down. And I think in a lot of scenarios where you're into a Yunara who's not the easiest target to engage on as a Jarvan because she has that dash, you can just kill the Nautilus, immediately remove him, and then play the rest of the fight out with a numbers advantage.
Well, Chovy looks like he's getting in position to get a bit aggressive towards BDD. Just throws down a dissonance for now, as Canyon will be moving towards his Krug camp by the looks of things on that top side of the map.
We have also seen that Cuz, thanks to the gold, able to pick up a very early Sundered Sky, and as we all know,
balanced item.
That's good stuff, right? You want to get that as early as possible. I think that particularly with the Poppy, like the 1 and 2 spikes on Jungle Poppy specifically, to me feel really strong. I do feel like eventually you'd rather have the gold on the Yunara, but early on, I don't think it's that bad, especially if you play aggressively.
Yeah, speaking of which, Shockwave does come down. And BDD, a little bit worse for wear. Cuz in position to defend, but still going to be a good amount of damage onto this Annie.
I do feel like it's a very different vibe with the Poppy, though, with the Sundered Sky. Like, Jarvan's just going around tapping everyone for the heals with the passive, whereas Cuz just launches the buckler at their head. They're just, like,
true.
So much damage.
Well, let's see how this one's going to go. Ruler back down towards his bottom side of the map, hoovering up minions. The gold, about 200 in the lead for KT. But it's two objectives for Gen.G. That really is what stands out to me for now. Next dragon is going to be a Cloud. So we could have Earth, Wind, and Fire to start us off.
Could be fun.
Still September.
It could even be in the correct order as well.
Oh my goodness. It has to be an Infernal Soul now. It has to.
Watch it be Chemtech.
Oh, Orcs, you know what to do, okay? We need so much attention, all right? You're here, you're in the Inspire Arena. Have a look around.
I should feel inspired.
Yep, yes. To make sure that we are paying as much attention. No susture at all, okay? We need to channel away from
possible
that.
Dive.
Yeah, bit of an angle here for KT. Let's see where the Ruler is going to be all right. As there's the flash forward. Good flash away as the depth charge not going to be avoided, but down comes Gen.G, and out goes Peter via the Death Chamber. That was beautifully played there by Ruler, even if he did have to invest the flash. Is now Perfect, taking a hot walk out of this top lane, but will be able to make it out.
Yeah, you can see KT trying to rush the play, make it happen quickly before Gen.G could respond, but the flash was perfect from Ruler. If he gets stunned against the terrain, I think they can just grab the kill and get out quickly, make the great escape, but he's able to disengage in the situation. It's Peter who goes down.
Oh, speaking of going down, could be a little bit of a rough spot here for Canyon as he does. Flash Flag Dragon gets himself out of his Cataclysm. Man, I was expecting him to die.
Sundered Sky, baby.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, still though, that is I think a really nice counterpunch and kind of an unforced error there from Canyon because he didn't have anyone near him. So walking up that aggressively, gets punished big time. Will lose his flash, will lose his ultimate. And well done there by KT, but I am starting to worry now as this play felt like it could have been the breakpoint for KT to really start running away with the game. But you see Gen.G, not only does Ruler play perfectly, as highlighted by Ox, but they knew, they were so ready for this. The immediate TP from Chovy, the fact that Duro was already basically in the area, and I think that KT in hindsight actually, they probably would have gotten Ruler, but if they had committed a lot more time towards it, I think it could have backfired immensely.
Yeah, it was so much a smash and grab sort of play.
Oh yeah.
Where they wanted to make it quick and get out.
Quick heist.
Yeah, and the fact that Peter didn't have Flash available, his Flash just coming up now, he was that man that they just had to leave behind in that situation. So a little bit dangerous. And then obviously we saw Canyon when he made that escape there, flashing outside of the W from the Poppy, so he didn't get his flag and drag interrupted. Does mean the Jarvan's without the flash now, so a little bit harder to find those engages.
Oh. Max range hook here from Peter. Looks for a bit of an angle, but out goes Duro.
Yeah, speaking of engages, a lot of flashes down for Gen.G. You know, both bot laners and Canyon down those flashes. So with the Herald spawning, with the Dragon spawning as well, both teams setting up for a fight, but I feel like KT have those summoner advantages on their side.
Yep. Cuz the only one with his flash down, but it's been upgraded to Hex Flash, so they'd say that that's probably a good thing.
Oh.
Valkyrie gets out of the way of the hook here from Peter as Shattering Strike avoided very nicely. Peter running around real fast with that Ghost is now perfect, teleporting in. And they're not wanting to give away feats of strength for free.
Look at BDD on the flank.
Looking to throw a bear at them. Let's see what happens here as second Dragon. Oh, the flash in from Peter. They're looking for Ruler, who does get knocked up. And the Cataclysm comes down, but the Rel's already dead. Out goes the Jarvan. Peter is traded, but now Keen's in an awkward spot. And Docdom is free hitting. BDD gets on top of Chovy, and Docdom just flashes for it. Now, perfect dashing around this fight as Keen flashes away. It's Cuzza locks down the Dragon, and Gen.G, they do secure an even kill trade, unless Cuz is able to make this one a problem, and never mind, it's a problem for Cuz. Down he'll go, and Gen.G will actually win the fight, even though they lost the Drake.
And we have been building up to it, but we have an actual team fight, and it's a back and forth. I thought the flank was going to be enough, but a little bit of stalling there from Gen.G prevents the disaster. And then at the end, KT trying to just chew off a little bit too much.
I feel like the Cataclysm that came through.
Yeah.
So initially the flank was massive, but there wasn't that much follow-up because the disengage that came out. Ruler and Chovy don't get initially followed up on. Ruler has a great Valkyrie, Chovy flashes away. And then it's this Cataclysm combined with the burning from Keen and the equalizer. So much damage is done to the front line. And it kind of, everyone splits out, Ruler and Canyon just engage, and then KT, they feel like they had such a good initial engage that they want more. They want more out the fight. But Ruler's still so healthy, Canyon's still so healthy, and it's just an overchase here.
Yep, it was Banana Rush control for Gen.G.
Because that death from Perfect, I think, is a bit more valid, because it buys the space for Cuz to get the smite. Cuz, though, didn't need to get that deep. He'd already done his job, denied the second Drake, as we are unfortunately also denied Earth, Wind, and Fire. But at least it's not a Chemtech, so we can't really blame anyone.
It's Earth, Wind, and Fire went out.
We are by the ocean.
True.
So that does feel appropriate.
That is a very good point. So the Inspire Arena is very much surrounded by water. And, so, well, I mean, I guess technically everything is, you know. Even the largest continents on Earth are actually surrounded by water.
If you zoom out enough, Atlas, that is true.
Yeah. Anyway, Slurkle comes out, doesn't find the target here, as Docdom with first item and a half now completed. Cull cashed in there as well, but it's a 2-0-3 Corki here, and we know Ruler can really get some things done with this champion. Rift Herald has been started, and Gen.G, oh man, they are all grouped up and ready to go. Equalizer goes down first as Cuz gonna get interrupted on the ult. He does slam Canyon against the wall as now BDD looking for Chovy off to the side. Perfect execution to come on through there as it's public, but it's also perfect playing the champion, so I reckon we'll count it as Gen.G will steal.
Targetable and is able to get the smite steal.
And now Gen.G's routed. They have the Herald, they slam it down mid immediately, so even though it's a 1-for-1, the fact that Gen.G get a Herald and then immediately
targetable and is able to get the smite steal.
And now Gen.G's routed. They have the Herald, they slam it down mid immediately, so even though it's a 1-for-1, the fact that Gen.G get a Herald and then immediately go towards mid and get this impact from it, they feel so good about the outcome of this play.
Yeah, 2,000 gold in an instant, the blink of an eye. And that is going to be locked down there, as we do have feats of strength also over to Gen.G at the same time. KT will be able to answer with this top lane outer turret being taken by PDD, so that is going to help them at least mitigate that gold lead just a little bit, but I don't know whether it's necessarily going to be enough. This snowball is a rolling.
And I think what we're also seeing is Gen.G have so many threats, because in so many of these fights we've seen Chovy get actually focused early on, right, as they're able to do here. But then on the other end of the fight, they are kind of getting bullied away, and their single target CC and damage is amazing. But I think until we get to the point where Yunara can really pop off, feels like they're not quite ready there with the damage, and Gen.G have 3 carries, so just killing Chovy isn't enough.
I feel like KT have to invest so many tools, and if they don't get a huge advantage from that initial engage with the Nautilus with the Annie, and Doctam isn't fed, it feels really hard to have the throughput in these fights, because another rotation of abilities from Ruler, from Chovy, and even...
But that's just up the wave, and down goes the Rumble. Nicely off there by KT, a little bit surprised by BDD.
Yeah, stacked yet, but this Corki is going to be very strong.
I do kind of love that KT can both have their own fans with elevated heartbeat, but also do jump scares. They've done so many of these death rushes.
Stacked yet, but this Corki is going to be very strong.
I do kind of love that KT can both have their own fans with elevated heartbeat, but also do jump scares. They've done so much.
1 second, no teleport to get back to this fight, and Canyon's just caught out of position.
That's
knocked up, just thrown around like a ragdoll, and down he will go. Another kill to Doctam and Otacon going to KT. The pendulum, it do be swinging here at the Inspire Arena.
I love the confidence, you know, we thought that pick in the bot lane was just that, a pick, but they think, right, Keen, no TP, death time is long enough. They immediately move for the Otacon, and then Canyon tries to approach. Not only do they take him down, but they manage to secure the objective as well. And Gen.G, they will trade for some turrets in return, so it's not as a one-sided play as it could be. But KT, they get what they want out of this.
Kind of sets up for a basically even game, because now with the pedals, Gen.G is pretty substantially behind, but the turret does mean that the gold stays in their favor. As watch this right here, Canyon tries to do the classic ult in, but it's the timing on Peter's ult there that interrupts it, and that's also going to be the next dragon going over, and KT really pushing back here in terms of control of the map.
And that's the thing, is that Gen.G has a slight gold lead, but that's with the fact that they've taken a lot of structures, a lot of towers.
Yeah, as Blascone going to deliver Cuz into a lot of open arms of Gen.G, and he's going to be taken down pretty comfortably here. Duro going to be the one to collect the kill, and Keen also taking a turret on the other side of the map. And yeah, it was looking okay for KT. It's stopped.
Wait, they're turning it around.
VODs, yeah, he's teleporting up towards Keen here, looking for a little bit of an angle.
Maybe with Ambessa?
Yeah, okay. Well, Keen is just going to,
I think he's just out.
Just rocket his way out.
I like the idea, though.
Oh, no. He's going to turn this into a gank, and the equalizer comes down. Doctam able to dash over that wall, so slightly optimistic, but I just like the fact that he went for it.
I feel like this passage of play after the Otacon got a little bit manic.
Yes.
KT, and Gen.G has actually benefited quite massively, because they picked up those 2 turrets initially, but here, Cuz just goes in on Duro, and ends up...
bait.
But
yeah, the blast
saw it.
Hit. And he has no backup from his team. And they just lock him in place, kill him. So now that play, that lead towards the bot side tier 1 fails. They don't get the bot side tier 1. Keen takes a tower in the meantime. So now, yes, they got the Otacon, but they're 3,500 gold down. I feel like KT, a good thing happened, and as is with KT, something bad had to follow.
Yeah. Didn't need to be that bad.
Especially in the current, like, we're still in the spellbook meta, right? You got to just press tab. You see that cleanse on Duro, you're like, you know what? I am just a puppy. Don't think this play is going to end up working out.
Yep, it was unnecessary. But kill score still very even here. Otacon going to be providing a little bit extra. And as you were saying, 1 turret to 4 of them on the other side. So KT have some ground that they can make up, but they do need to be able to get some control in order to take these turrets.
This is also a point where Ruler is super strong, because not only did his mirror mana just get fully stacked, but he now has enough stats to get his Jack of all trades, the full 10 different stats.
Yeah.
He has that, he has the extra adaptive force. This Corki is fully online. Strongest champion in the game right now, I would say. So they have the gold lead, and even though the Adakan's in the other direction, I feel like Gen.G, the next fight, I think if they don't get a grip on Ruler, if they don't blow him up, he's just going to dominate.
There is also, again, so much single target burst on KT. Both Keen and Chovy have actually picked up Zhonya as an arm guard respectively, so there is a lot of defensive power there as well. So KT need to be either extremely clean on their setup, which they do have the tools for, it to be clear, between the Ambessa ult, Poppy's entire kit, Annie's entire kit, Nautilus's entire kit. But if you blow too much on one member and the rest of Gen.G is there, you're still in trouble. So it is a tightrope they need to walk. And my main issue for KT is I don't think it necessarily gets better, because I do think the Poppy and Annie in particular are kind of going to naturally fall off as we get deeper into the game. And let's be real, with Jarvan and Orianna, you're always going to be feeling good to get into the late game. Obviously, Yunara's there, but as we highlighted, there is a lot of CC to make Dokdam's life miserable.
Yep, and it's also about ease of execution as well, as Cuz just getting annoyed by this horse pants lady.
Like, I'm not going on
around his jungle.
Not attacking you again, Duro.
Yeah, Chovy moving on in. And the problem is KT's plan has been try to eliminate Chovy in a lot of these fights. And you mentioned the arm guard, but he also has the defensive AP core duo of items.
Yes.
AP that just turns him into an AP bruiser, like you're talking about. And so Chovy is going to pretty much be a tank, and so they have to change their focus to let's kill Ruler as quickly as we possibly can. Maybe deal with Keen as well. As you can see, he's done a lot of damage.
It's one of the things with Corki and Orianna where they have extra HP from the items, in particular Orianna, but even the Corki with the Triforce. And it's also, if you chunk them but don't kill them, they're so good at playing at the back of a fight. Like, Corki can still contribute rockets, Orianna can still shield or play at a distance. But if Yunara gets chunked out and she's like your main damage for KT, she has to be in auto range to really do anything other than the lasers. And I think that's the thing with Gen.G. They just need to chunk Dokdam, and I think KT's fight potential really starts to struggle. So Dokdam is approaching 3 items, it's a big spike, but he needs to be like pixel perfect, I feel, in some of these fights. To have the impact that they need, and it's getting a little worrying now. We have 30 seconds on the next dragon. We could see KT maybe just give it up and give more time for Dokdam to scale, because Baron's up as well. If you lose a fight at this point, it's probably just Baron into game.
Yeah, and they need Dokdam to have that Infinity Edge. It's going to be so incredibly important. Teleport back from Chovy to get back towards this lane. He is looking for some Magic Pen here as Cousin Peter. Not going to get shockwaved, as Duro's just going to crash his way over this wall as the dragon will be spawning. And it looks like KT not ones to back down from a fight, even though perhaps they should be.
Banana Brush?
Yeah, they're going to get control of it this time around, but Gen.G already starting off this dragon. Perfect, looking for an angle towards Keen. They do spy the Rumble lurking in the back of that pit as the Equalizer into the Banana Brush, doing absolutely nothing at all. Perfect getting on top of Keen here, but the Poppy ultimate is going to get avoided. Somehow it's Ruler that takes down the dragon as Perfect, able to dash his way out. BDD's being exhausted, and Duro gets on top of him in the Annie. Executed immediately, and KT just cannot do damage in this fight. Down go 3, and Dokdam just gonna have to walk away from this one. Manages to dash away from Canyon, but Keen probably not going to let him leave. The Harpoons looking for him, but he doesn't even need them. Unable to dash over that wall. Down goes Dokdam, and Gen.G, I think, just won the game.
And in a fight where KT, I think, needs to be laser focused on taking down Ruler, they didn't even get a Suns.
Yep, didn't even get near him. He was just free hitting, gets a triple kill there. And I think it was a fight they really didn't need to take, and a fight they're now going to regret having gone for with the Baron secured. You can see it kind of felt like initially they were maybe looking for just a Dragon Steal and then maybe disengage. The ult gets charged up by Cuz, but he thinks Canyon's just going to ult to deny it, so he goes for Keen, but Keen pops the stasis. They then commit onto Canyon. BDD ends up failing the flash. It's all scrappy and messy from KT. And Gen.G just holds strong. Ruler just walks forward and hits closest target. Nothing complex from Gen.G because they didn't need anything complex to win this. And KT, it kind of felt like they tripped over their own tools.
And that flash from BDD is really going to sting. And as you're saying, I think that KT always would have to look for an all-in fight at some point in the game. But I do think you want the positions to be good. And I didn't really feel like they had a great flank angle there. Perfect was marked very early on. And looking at it in hindsight, I actually think it was the whiffed equalizer from Keen that is what prompted them to be like, hey, equalizer's down, we might have a shot here. But Gen.G still out-teamfight them, and now the game is firmly in Gen.G's hands, and unless they make some colossal mistakes, should be them closing out this game number 1.
Well, The Infinity Edge turns up, but it is just a little bit too late. Kind of like Donald Glover with the pizza. As KT looking to try and defend this inner turret. That's going to be a tough task, as Canyon, you can see, just lurking, seeing whether it is going to be a dive opportunity. They are just able to tank this one up, though, and down will go the inner. One last one remaining towards that bottom side.
Yeah, they are not
down 5.
They're not a good team against Baron, because they really don't have wave clear that they can just do from a safe distance. Like, Dr. has to walk up and auto the wave, and you're against Oriana, so he's constantly have to play around this ball being put forwards, as you can see, taking poke from the Corki as well, and the towers are just dying to the cannon minions.
Yep, and there's 2 that are already set up here, so this inhibitor is well and truly dead. Keen just ushering in another wave towards this mid lane, and that's already 50% done. KT, they have to do something, otherwise passively, their whole base is just going to blow up. But the problem is, when they did try to do something last time, it went very, very poorly.
I think the opportunity, unfortunately, has gone by.
Rock and or hard place comment?
I would say so, yes. Which is not ideal.
I choose the rock. Go for the rock.
Yeah. I'm going to go with hard place, potentially made out of rocks.
I don't think he's in this movie, guys.
Oh, okay. He's been in quite a few of them, though. It's pretty surprising. Gen.G will be able to take the inhibitor turret, but they will leave the inhibitor up here in this mid lane momentarily. Now looking to transition this last 30 seconds of Baron towards the bottom side.
And they also, because they didn't get Chovy's arm guard last round, like he is just building towards Void Staff now.
Yep.
Because he's not being threatened. And yeah, even it's hard to imagine anyone getting picked off with the tools available right now.
It's an 11,000 gold lead.
Yeah, it's a pretty substantial gold lead. It really has just gone that sort of direction.
Has KT studied the bros to see how they managed to do it?
Atlas, you
against
were there.
The DN freaks?
No, Atlas, you were there. You know that's not what actually transpired.
He took me aside after that Pog State episode and said, if you just go back and watch it from a bro perspective, it looks like a comeback.
Did you do that?
No, I didn't. And I still don't believe it. But we do want to believe that KT can potentially find an angle.
I think the KT
I probably shouldn't have
angle
fabricated a situation.
I think the KT angle in the next game is...
Ah,
I think they actually had
the next game angle.
They had a good early game, right? It was just a couple of fights, didn't end up going their way. Gen.G, obviously, as they always are, very punishing when it comes to rotations around the map. They did also get Rumble, Oriana, and Jarvan.
Yeah.
That is a little silly.
And Corki. Corki's pretty good too, as it turns out. Equalizer goes down. They do manage to avoid it. Cuz does pick up the red buff as Magnet Storm going to be thrown in, but doesn't really do too much. Slurkle. But KT will just back away. And Gen.G still giving them a lot of respect as Peter, he's the one that has to face check, does find this control ward that will be taken out here by Dr. Arm. Oh my goodness, these rockets are really hurting.
They're pushing out so much.
Well, sometimes you just want to try and find a fight. KT, they've decided that this is the hill that they're going to do their last gasp on. BDD looking for a bit of an angle here as Dr. Arm is scary. The hook to come on out, but Keen just eats it with the Zhonya's. So no flash here for Peter. Chovy looking for a window, does find it. Another hook is going to connect. Peter does find the knock-up onto Canyon and manages to make his way out. And there's the ulti. Will connect onto Keen now that he doesn't have that. Zhonya's the flash forward. There's the public execution. But Chovy goes golden as well. And now it's Thuro's turn to get in there. Still, they don't have a lot of the tools. And Chovy will be taken down. BDD in trade immediately. But Dom, can he actually get it done? The answer is no, because Ruler is unfortunately still alive for KT fans. And yeah, that 1v1 ain't gonna be one you're gonna win there, Dom. It's a quadra for Ruler. And Cuz will deny the Penta, but I don't think he's gonna deny his Nexus going down.
This is a sort of fight where maybe if it was a 3,000, 4,000 gold lead, you could have seen KT winning it, but they barely took out Chovy.
What do you mean? It's
Ruler.
4 times that amount. They should have easily been able to do it.
Ruler just sat there free hitting, having the great time on this Corki, doing so much damage, and now Cuz trying to defend solo. We'll see if Ruler cares more about the Penta.
Of course he does.
Yeah, I don't know whether the Penta still exists, but we'll see whether he can get it. Unofficial Pentakill there from Ruler as he takes down the Nexus. Gen.G will strike first in this lower bracket final, and it was they struck pretty hard.